What's going on, my UFC and my boxing fanatics around the world? Also, my hard workers out there, man. My blue hard working homies out there. As you guys heard, Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford will be fighting September 13th for free on Netflix, my friends. Why is that such a big deal? And why does that help my pockets and make me happy? As you guys know, if you're UFC and boxing fans, every single month I'm paying $120, sometimes $140 to be able to watch every single pay-per-view monthly. And hey, plus the subscriptions, you got DAZN, you got ESPN Plus, you got UFC Fight Pass. I mean, come on, dude, the list goes on and on and on, right? Netflix is doing us an absolute favor by giving us this Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford fight for free, my friends. We're heading on the right path by getting us switched over to Netflix, my friends. Now, this fight is absolutely breaking news. You know, when I first heard about it being on Netflix, I thought about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, and I said, wow, I don't know, man. I mean, that fight looked like it might have been rigged. Is it possible this is? Well, if you're thinking that, it's not, my friends. Why? Because all of Canelo Alvarez bouts are on the line, my friends. All of his super middleweight titles, the WBC, the WBO, the WBA, the IBF title will be on the line versus Terrence Bud Crawford, my friends. And wow, I mean, you got Terrence Bud Crawford in his last fight, fighting at 154 pounds, willing to go up to fight Canelo Alvarez at 168, my friends. Now, you guys know I'm riding with Terrence Bud Crawford all the way, my friends. But this is absolutely huge news. The thing is, they don't know where it's going to be taking place at yet. There's still 3 locations that they're talking about. It can be at the Allegiant Stadium where the Las Vegas Raiders play. As you guys know, it's the biggest. It's one of the most beautiful, biggest arenas in Las Vegas. That's where they want to have the fight. But what's stopping them is September 13th. I believe Idaho State and UNLV college football team that Saturday was supposed to be going on Saturday night. Now, I've heard that boxing promoters and boxing people are trying to get that specific football game moved to another stadium, so that way we'll be able to put Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford in the Allegiant Stadium, my friends. Now, if that doesn't happen, second resort, they're going to the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, my friends. And if that doesn't work, I believe they're going to MGM Grand, my friends. Now, this is absolutely breaking news. It's for sure going to happen. Like I said, they don't have an exact venue yet, but it is taking place on September 13th. Why is that significant? Mexican Independence Day is on September 16th. You got a United States guy, Terrence Bud Crawford, who was absolutely phenomenal. Probably the greatest welterweight that we've seen since Floyd Mayweather himself, my friends. And now he's going to be taking on Canelo Alvarez, my friends, the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, an absolute phenom, one of the greatest Mexican boxers of all time, my friends. Hey, this fight is huge news. Now, I want to talk about UFC and I want to mix it in there a little bit. As you guys know, Dana White is taking part in this Terrence Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez card. He will be promoting it along with Turki, my friends. And hey, this is interesting because, as you guys know, the UFC Noche card, which was supposed to be in Guadalajara, which was supposed to be pay-per-view, got switched over to San Antonio, Texas, my friends, and it is not pay-per-view no more. And it's just crazy to think that I believe Dana White is officially making his transition into boxing. As you guys know, he has his TKO deal. He has that deal with Turkey as they're starting their own boxing promotion and making their own boxing title. This is Dana White full effect in boxing. We are not going to be seeing Dana White in San Antonio, Texas for this fight. I guarantee you, Dana White will be present in the Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford fight, sitting right next to Turkey in Las Vegas, my friends. Now, as you guys seen, another thing that has to do with UFC and boxing, as you guys seen, Turki Al-Ashaki just recently released a tweet talking about how he would not accept no more running in his Rahida season cards, my friends, specifically pointing out Scully and Devin Haney. Now, I'm not saying he's pointing them out, but I'm saying I'm pointing them out. They're the only reasons why this whole petition in the first place, that Showbiz started. I signed it, don't get me wrong. But the no running rule that they're trying to get into effect, it might have worked, my friends, because you got Turki Al-Ashaki dropping the tweet saying he will not allow it no more. Now, why do I want to bring this into UFC? As you guys know, there's a petition for Jon Jones to get his bout stripped from him, my friends, as he's holding up the heavyweight division, not wanting to fight Tom Aspinall. And just a couple days ago on the Dana White post-press conference, we just found out that he didn't even know and what Jon was tweeting. And this whole time, Jon Jones was lying about everything. Well, Turki sees the petition, he gets things going for the fans, and he gets it done. I just wanted to point that out, how Dana White, with over 190,000 signatures to get Jon Jones stripped, has still not made a move yet, my friends. Just the difference in the type of people in Dana White and Turki, and why I feel like, Turki has just been making this absolute ridiculous run in the sport of boxing, and is everywhere, my friends. Now, this is absolutely interesting stuff that is going on. I'm excited to see what Dana White can do to have this boxing fight with Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez taking place in Mexican Independence Day. As you guys know, some other news that dropped in the UFC, Joshua Van, who just fought last weekend, who beat Bruno Silva in the third round, absolutely destroyed him the whole fight, is replacing Manil Kopp and is going to be taking on Brandon Royval, my friends. Absolutely ridiculous news for Joshua Van, as he's getting a shot, basically a number one contender shot for the title, my friends. Your boy Royval was coming off two wins off our boy Brandon Moreno and Tatsuro Tairo, who are two absolute phenomenal fighters, my friends. This is some breaking news going on in the UFC and boxing. Terrence Crawford and Canelo. As you guys know, we're rocking with Crawford. I think he's the better fighter. I think Canelo Alvarez, of course, hits harder and maybe the heavier fighter. But this isn't the type of fight where Crawford is going to fight a 168, 6'5" type of guy, or a 6'5" guy. They literally are the same size. And Dan Rafael, an absolute phenomenal man, has just reported that he's seen Terrence Crawford. And he said that he's already looking like he's gaining the weight. He's looking good. He's looking ferocious. He's already the same size as Canelo Alvarez. Imagine he gets the same weight soon. Guys, Canelo Alvarez is looking like he's going to be the favorite to open up minus 220. We might be able to get Terrence Crawford at a plus 175. Absolutely ridiculous, my friends. Breaking news. This is the MMA Boxing Addicts channel. Like and subscribe, and I'm out.